All right, I think we are live everywhere that I could possibly think about us being live. All right, good. All right, so we'll let people come on and join us.
Okay.
So you said the Valley, so I assume that's California, right?
Yes, in the valley in California, in Woodland Hills. So it's
Where
probably
is that?
about 30 minutes north of like downtown area
Is that San Francisco or
in Los
Los
Angeles.
Angeles? Los Angeles.
Hmm.
Okay, all right. I've been to Los Angeles once, loved it, had a great time, and want to go back.
Well, it is hot. It is hot. I don't know if you can tell, but it is blazing
So
out here. We're supposed to have a heat wave coming where Saturday is supposed to be 107 degrees.
that's hot for California, right?
It is. It's pretty hot out
I
here
think
and
it's awesome.
dry.
You broke up just a little bit. What did you say?
I was just talking about it being the heat being dry, that kind of different kind of heat that is dry heat versus the humid heat.
Yeah, like it is here. Yeah, it is definitely. I was in Arizona back in the 90s when I was in college, Tempe, Arizona, and it was like 107 degrees, and it is completely different than Texas humidity. So
Exactly.
it's bearable actually. That when it's dry like that, you can actually bear the heat. It's bearable as opposed to the sweat and the suffocation of humidity. So yeah, so stay
And this,
inside. Don't get outside. I heard you guys. Did you guys have the earthquake in California, or was that somewhere else in California that had the earthquake last week?
we did have an earthquake. We did. It was a small one, but we did have an
Yeah,
earthquake. Yeah.
yeah. Well, good. I'm glad it wasn't big.
No, it
All right.
wasn't anything too crazy.
Say again.
I said it wasn't anything too crazy.
Yeah, I saw some posts online, and people were like, "Yeah, when non-Californians get feel the earthquake, they think the sky is falling, but regular
Oh
Californians are like, oh, that was nothing. Oh, it was nothing."
Oh yeah, absolutely. My uncle actually moved to California from Memphis, Tennessee,
Uh huh.
and we were hanging out in the backyard when he felt his first earthquake, and he didn't know what to do. He felt it, and it was his first earthquake. He just got up and he started to run.
You're like, "Where are you going, Uncle? Come back."
You can't run anymore. There's nowhere to run. The ground will continue to shake no matter where you stand.
That's
So
right. It's like, no,
he
book
just
this mess. I'm out. I am out.
exactly. It's like you can't go nowhere. You just sit there and you just wait for it to be
Wait
over.
it
It'll be
out.
over.
That's right. That's too funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are right at the top of the hour and people are joining. And so let me make sure I am seeing. All right, so for those that are on, I am actually streaming this on our Travel Boss group page too. So this is a bonus for you all. This is sort of normal for us inside of the inner circle. So let me know as you join. Come on and say hello. We have a special guest today. We are meeting with Jazzmine Douse from AmaWaterways River Cruise Company, correct? River Cruise Company
Hmm. Hmm.
is my new favorite type of cruising. So I just recently got introduced to ocean cruising about 2 years ago, and I have not been on a river cruise, and I absolutely want to do it. So I am so anxious to hear all about your company and everything that's going on here. So with that, let me just give it just a couple more minutes because it looks like my connection too is bad. So I want to make sure. Okay, sounds like I am being heard. All right, and we've got people who are joining, so that's great. So Jazzmine, if you are ready, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to present your presentation. All right, it's not showing. Do you need to
Let's
share?
see.
There it goes. All right, I see it now.
And is it on? Is it full screen?
It is. I can make it full screen. There you go. Is that
I was
good?
wondering on my end, is it showing as a slideshow instead of
Yes, it is showing as a slideshow.
Okay, perfect. Well, I can't see you anymore,
Let me put
but
my face there. Is that better?
well, because I'm doing it in the slideshow mode.
Oh, that's
So,
great. Okay, got you. Okay,
but as
so I'm
long as we're
going to hide us.
As long as we're working, then I'll go ahead and take it away. Let me
You
know.
are absolutely working. We're good.
All right, fantastic. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. As Cindy mentioned, my name is Jazzmine Douse. I am a national account manager with AmaWaterways. And Cindy and I actually connected on social media on Facebook. So we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But I'm just excited to be able to talk about river cruising and bringing this new idea of vacationing to you and find out not only what a river cruise is, but why would you want your clients to river cruise with AmaWaterways. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get us started here with our story. The biggest thing about AmaWaterways that I think is very notable is that AmaWaterways is family owned and operated. So we all know that when you have those family owned businesses, they operate just a little bit differently. And it's because they really care, right? There's that extra level of care and making sure that whoever does business with you also feels like they're part of the family as well. So these are our three fearless leaders here. You've got Rudy Schreiner on the far left. Christine Karst is there in the canoe with him. And then you've got Gary Murphy over there to the right. And they're all coming together to create this family-owned brand that you see here that's called AmaWaterways. One of the fun facts I love to say about Rudy and just to share is that I'm sure you all have heard about river cruises, but probably you've heard about one of our friendly competitors, Viking, because they really have that brand recognition and that market share. And so one of the fun facts we always let people know is that Rudy Schreiner, he actually went to go and help Uniworld get started with their river cruise, and then Viking get started with their river cruise, and ultimately decided he wanted to create his own family-owned company where he didn't have to compromise any of his beliefs. And so that is actually where Ama came from. And so Sunday, earlier you were mentioning, is it Ama or is it Ama? And so we always like to bring this in. So it is Ama, and it's actually derived from the Latin word amore, right? So it's Ama, and Ama actually means love. And it's really the fact that we really try to put love into everything we do when it comes to the booking process, when it comes to supporting our travel advisors, when it comes to having an amazing crew on board with us. I'm a love, and I think this is a really great depiction. As you can see here, we're really just trying to make sure that, especially in the times that we're in nowadays, that we stay in the forefront and we make sure that we are an inclusive brand. And so you'll start to see a lot more things come out here and there to let you know that we are focusing on ensuring that there is a level of diversity and inclusion in the product, as our goal is to welcome anyone on board who wants to experience the rivers of the world. So where do we go, right? That's really where we can start off, is where do these rivers go and where do they flow? So the bulk of our product will be in Europe. So most river cruising, you're going to see a lot of that happening there in Europe. And then you also have your exotics. So with AmaWaterways, our exotics are Southeast Asia. So you can do Vietnam and Cambodia. And then we have another exotic in Africa. And so Africa is either the Stars of South Africa, that includes the 4 nights on the Chobe River on a chartered ship called the Zambezi Queen, and there's land components pre and post. We also have East Africa, where you can go to the Serengeti and Arusha and Tanzania. And then we also have our brand new Egypt itinerary coming out here in 2021. And so if you would like to learn more information about that, I would direct you to work with your local BDM, or you can go directly to our website, log into the Travel Advisor portal, and there's a ton of training opportunities for you there. Now back to Europe. So the bulk of the product, I would probably say the most 2 popular rivers you're going to find on river is the Rhine River and the Danube River. They are the most aesthetic. They are the ones where you can see the most, and you're able to visit multiple countries just during one river cruise. Now, typically with Ama, you're looking at about 7-night river cruises when you're looking at the European itinerary, and then they go ahead and increase from there. 10 nights, 11 nights, 14 nights with pre and post land components that you can add. Now, excuse me, I know that nowadays ocean cruising is really what's in the forefront when people think of cruising. And that's okay, because river is really, I feel like it's kind of still in its infancy stages. So I always like to put this quote here because I think it helps to put it into perspective for you travel advisors who are totally familiar with ocean, but may not be too familiar with river. And this is one of the main reasons why people love river. It's for the fact that oceans take you to the countries of which you're visiting. while your rivers will take you through those countries. And that is the biggest difference. That is why people love river cruising, is because of the accessibility. So if you can see here in this image, there's two river cruise ships there. So it's the fact that those river cruise ships can literally pull right on over to the banks of the river, and you'll be right there, sometimes near the heart of the city center. So, one of the best things I love to share as a little tidbit on river cruising in Europe is that Europe, they actually grew from the banks of the river. So, these rivers were actually the main modes of transportation and commerce, and being able to travel and being able to allow these items to pass through the river from the North Sea to the Black Sea, and in reverse as well. And so with these oceans, with these rivers, because we're typically used to a city center, right? And then your cities growing outward from the city center. With this type of river in Europe, most of those cities actually grew from the banks of the rivers. So a lot of the things that your clients are going to see are going to be very accessible from those banks of the river. So that's another reason why people love river cruising, because it actually allows you to double that leisure time. You spend a lot less time worrying about the logistics, and you replace that time with indulging and experiencing the local culture. So one of the things I always like to say, I think that is really is important, is when you try to do the same type of vacation that an AmaWaterways river cruise provides. So say you're visiting 5 different countries and you're going to 10 different cities, and you have nightly entertainment, regional specialties, wines from each of the regions. You really get to dive in this culture. If you try to do that on your own, for your client, you'd have to worry about checking in and out of hotels, arranging for dinners, arranging for nightly entertainment, possibly booking an interconnecting flight, a train, a rental car. You have all of these different moving parts. Well, with River, you come to us and you let us provide that specially curated experience for your client. What better way is it where you can just actually call one supplier and be taken care of from A to Z? And so again, doubling that leisure time, more time in port, just more of a way to really relax and just enjoy and soak in the scenery that surrounds you. Here's another quote I like to use as well. They say, every day is a sea day rather than a sea day. So when we talk about ocean cruising, we know that days at sea are very common. And it's days at sea where you have to be thoroughly entertained on board your ocean ship. Well, with river cruising, it's a little bit different. The river cruise ship is not the destination. The destination is truly the destination, right? And so you always have something to see, literally, visually. There's always going to be something there. So sometimes when we get the question, well, do I book the starboard side or the port side? Again, you don't have those times where there's sea on one side and land on the other. There's always something spectacular to view, no matter which way you look. Now, when we talk about AmaWaterways ships, one of the main things I love to point out is the fact that Berlitz, which is this brand here, you maybe recognize them as an international language school. They actually go around and rate every single river cruise ship there is in Europe every other year. In this past year, they rated over 320 river cruise ships. I think that's just astonishing that there's that many out there on the rivers. Out of 320 river cruise ships, AmaWaterways ships took 10 out of the top 15 rankings. So for us, that's huge, right? Because I will always tell you that Ama's the best. I would say I'm a little bit biased, but it's really truly because I believe in what we do. But to have a completely unbiased source come behind us and say the same exact thing with all of the data and the facts to prove it is simply amazing. And so we always love to share that with you. There's articles on the internet about it. There's also an actual river cruising guide that you can purchase that talks about every single ship they rated, the rating that they put them in, and really becomes your guide to river cruising. So I encourage you to check that out if it's something that you're interested in. Now, what I also like to point out about this particular slide is most of our staterooms will have this here design. 90% of our staterooms will have this design. One of the main things I'd like for you all to know about River is that typically you will not see inside cabins. Specifically with Alma, there are no inside cabins. So there's always a view and there's always this opportunity to have some type of either window or some type of balcony. So with 80% of the staterooms having this design, it's because we know the most highest in demand type stateroom is the stateroom with space and with the double balcony. So you have a full balcony on the left-hand side where you can sit outside and enjoy the scenery. And then you've got the French balcony on the right-hand side that's floor to ceiling sliding glass windows. Now, during these times, I thought it was really important to share with you as far as how AmaWaterways does its business practices. Based on our, for lack of better words, stringent business practices, it's really put us in a fantastic position in order to be able to withstand the current situation. So as we know, our current environment has been quite difficult, especially for our partners here in travel. But we're just so thankful because Rudy Schreiner has really always had this very innovative mind and this insight into the future. And I think it was a few years ago when there was a volcano eruption that prevented some of our guests from being able to travel to Europe. Rudy saw this as a premonition to say, you know, hey, there potentially could be a time where AmaWaterways cannot sail. And if that's the case, I want to make sure that this company still is able to do well. And so he thought it might have come from a low water situation or some other type of natural disaster. But here we are, and it came a lot sooner, and it was due to COVID-19, the coronavirus. And so we just wanted to share, you know, based on the fact that AmaWaterways, all of our vessels are paid for, even our newest build ships. So their last 10 ships were paid in cash, and it really saves us a lot of money and a lot of fees. But the biggest thing is that there's no debt on our ships. So when we're in a time like this where we can't travel, we know that it's okay. We know that we're going to be in a great position. And we know that the moment that we are able to travel, that we'll be right there and ready and willing to welcome your clients on board. So one of the things we really just like to point out, because financial stability, we know, is something that is really, really important during today's times. Now, I want to go over a couple of the reasons as to why we think you should travel with AmaWaterways, a couple of our points of distinction. I'm going to start here with sustainable travel. All of AmaWaterways ships in Europe have been honored with Green Award certification for sustainability. So this is something that's become really, really important as of lately, and we wanted to make sure that we're doing all we can to really help to preserve the environment, right? Because we all want to be able to continue to provide these amazing travel dreams for years and years on end. So it's really great to know that we do have this Green Award certification. And just last week, I found out that this certification potentially will allow us to have some priority over docking ports in Europe going forward. So we're hoping that that does go through. I do know that it's in discussion right now, but again, another great way to say that AmaWaterways truly cares about its environment, and we want to make sure that we're contributing to a longevous travel career. Now, I mentioned earlier about innovation. Now, when we talk about double balconies, you know, having two balconies in a stateroom, that was very innovative of Rudy to do. But this right here, this ship, the Ama Magna, is probably one of the most innovative decisions that Rudy has ever made. What he has decided to do was take a standard size river cruise ship. So right now, all the cruise ships out there on the river, about 443 feet. Now he's taken that standard size river cruise ship and made it twice the width. Okay, so twice the width. Here you have this river cruise ships. Now, standard river cruise ships typically carry, I would say, on average, about 170 passengers. AmaWaterways is below that average with about 155 on average for our ships. Now, what we've done with the Ama Magna, though, is that we've made it twice the width of a standard ship, but we've only added about 30 more cabins on board. So this particular river cruise ship is all about space. Okay, it's all about space. It's all about comfort. Multiple dining venues. It is phenomenal, and it is state of the art, and there's nothing else like it out there on the rivers. Now, for those of you who are familiar with river, the first thing you might think of is, what about the locks, and how can this large ship go through these locks? Because usually those locks are very narrow. Well, this particular ship, because of its width, can only sail down the Danube River between Vilshofen and Budapest. And so we actually have this ship going back and forth on that particular river. And then starting here in 2021, we've actually found out that that ship can continue past Budapest and go all the way through to Giurgiu, which is Southeast Europe. And so that option is also available for your members. Now, one of the most powerful things I would say that we found out about the Alma Magna is that Time decided that it was one of the world's 100 greatest places to visit as of 2019. Now, on board every single one of our river cruise ships, we make it really a priority to ensure that your dining experience is second to none. So we're really proud to say that we constantly receive awards for this dining experience, and we are the only river cruise company inducted into La Chaîne de Retissu. Now, this is the world's largest food and wine organization founded in Paris. The only way to be a part of it is actually if they invite you. So we always thought that that was something very special to say that we were invited to be a part of something so phenomenal that really speaks volumes to the culinary excellence that you're going to receive on board. One of the main things I love to point out about that culinary experience is the fact that we always use fresh, locally sourced ingredients. So each of your meals will always have some type of regional option and regional specialty to it. And what better way to get a taste of the region than from us actually using local ingredients from the regions of which you're sailing through. So it really helps to bring that authenticity to your dining experience. We also have a specialty dining experience on every single one of our river cruise ships, and it's actually called the Chef's Table Specialty Restaurant. The Chef's Table Restaurant sits 24 guests in Europe on our standard European river cruise ships, and 36 on that wonderful Alma Magna ship that we discussed. And so this particular restaurant is on the aft of each one of our ships. It is lined with floor-to-ceiling windows, so you can see a beautiful scenery as you sail away from some of these destinations. But then you also have the beautiful scenery of your chef preparing your meal for you behind a glass-enclosed kitchenette. It is truly the experience of a lifetime. So every guest is actually guaranteed a reservation for the Chef's Table Restaurant. Okay, so you have the opportunity to dine there every single time you sail with AmaWaterways without having to pay anything additional. So I would encourage you that when you book your members or your clients on an AmaWaterways river cruise, let them know that once they get on board, they should definitely sign up for the Chef's Table Restaurant. Now, with AmaWaterways, we do prefer to have a high staff to guest ratio to ensure that you are truly taken care of by our local English-speaking host and our English-speaking crew. And I think it's really special because our goal is really to make sure that you feel like you're part of our family. I always like to say that these servers have this process in their minds, and their goal is to always observe, assess, delight, surprise, and repeat, right? So it's all about really seeing and getting a taste of what's happening in the room and ways that you can put a smile on their face. And I think you really feel it. It's something that we call, it's a sparkle. And I think that you truly feel it when you're on board with AmaWaterways. Now, this picture reminds me to remind you about our drink policy. So with AmaWaterways, we provide unlimited champagne, wine, and beer during each one of your meals. So that is our standard drink policy. We do make sure that these wines and beers are premium. So you're not getting anything house. You're getting that next level, that premium, higher end type of experience. And those wines are also always regional. Again, we talk about being able to taste some of that culture. But what we also added a couple years ago, and it's been so well received, is a sip and sail cocktail hour. So an hour before dinner every evening, now your members, your clients, your guests, your friends and family can actually hang out with us an hour before dinner every evening. And not only will we provide the champagne, wine, and beer, but we'll also provide spirits that are included during that time as well. It's called the Sip and Sail Cocktail Hour. but I kind of renamed it the Drink and Dock Cocktail Hour. It really just depends on what you're doing during the cocktail hour that helps to name it. But again, definitely a great way to just ensure that your clients have a full experience on board. Now, if you're used to selling ocean, then you're probably used to your clients wanting drink packages. So river is a lot different. As I mentioned earlier, river is more about the destination than being on board the ship. So while we do provide the wines and beers during meals and the sip and sell cocktail hour, the basis behind this is that we really want to encourage the guests on board to disembark the ship anytime that they can. And so typically when you have a drink package, a lot of the times you feel obligated to ensure that you're fully utilizing that drink package, right? So instead of having that pressure, we will always constantly have your exciting and wonderful cruise manager encourage you to go out to a local beer garden to have a Kolsch beer in Cologne, or to actually go have some tea in Amsterdam, because it really helps you, again, dive into that local culture. And every night we actually provide a specialty drink. One of my favorites, I had to include the recipe here, is the lemon drop martini. Not only do we provide drink recipes every day, but also every night after a beautiful day of exploring, you'll come back to your stateroom and we'll provide your clients with a recipe of one of the regional specialties that we prepared for them for that day. And I would say this is really a small detail, but it goes such a long way. And we've received such great feedback from our past passengers who now use these as collector items. And they're so excited to return back home with an opportunity to actually make these specialties for their families and friends. Now, I talked about being able to disembark the ship. Now, one of the things I'd like to point out, though, is before you disembark the ship after dinner, we invite you to actually join us in the lounge for enriching onboard entertainment. So you will actually see that, oh, apologies. You will actually see that the entertainers are local and they actually embark in every port each night that they come on board, and they're bringing some of that local flavor. So we have singers and dancers and a folklore shows. I mean, it's really just a sight to see. And then, as I mentioned, a lot of the times you are docked right there in the heart of town. And so after that nightly entertainment, most people decide that they want to disembark that river cruise ship, walk out into the town, and experience a little bit of the nightlife as well. And that actually leads me right to this slide. I mean, isn't this the perfect depiction of river? It's really truly docking right in the heart of town. So you can see that Alma Magna pulled right on over there. And this is in Passau, Germany. And just being able to see just how close those cities and towns are to the river there. But really what that points out is that because you're docked so close to the heart of the town, the shore excursions that we provide really allow you to maximize your time in each of these cities. And what it also allows you to do is explore on your own, knowing exactly where your ship is when you're ready to return back to it. So I want to talk a little bit about those shore excursions, because this is probably one of the biggest differentiating factors about AmaWaterways, but also one of the biggest differentiating factors between river and ocean. So with AmaWaterways and with river, your cruise excursions are very small. So we're looking at 20 for AmaWaterways on average. Going into the new COVID situation, those numbers will continue to decrease. But we're looking at small group excursions with about 20 per local tour guide. You have your own personal headset where you can listen to that tour guide while they have their own personal headset. And it really just allows you a little bit additional freedom. What we also do with these excursions is that we provide them at different paces. So you can do a gentle walkers if you may have mobility issues. As you can see here, there's a woman here in this picture that's using a walking stick. So this is a gentle walkers group. We'll make frequent rest breaks. We'll take a motor coach to long distances if needed. And we'll really just move at a slower pace. And then we have our regular walking tours, and then we have our active walking tours. But best thing about all of these tours, though, is that they're all included. So that's another thing that's really, really different about that ocean cruise experience. A lot of ocean cruise companies make a lot of their revenue once your clients get on board the ship. The revenue that we make as river cruisers on board the ship is very minimal, if none. Whereas all of those funds are actually paid up front so that your clients really truly know what they're getting into, knowing that there won't be this large onboard bill when they are disembarking. Now, we talked about having those different paces. We talked about having active touring. Now, this active touring has truly opened up the doors for AmaWaterways in ways we couldn't imagine. And really, it's helped to also drop that average demographic of who actually river cruises. So, you may have heard some myths in the past that river cruising is only for a certain demographic or a certain age. So, we want to clear that up right now, especially with AmaWaterways. I would say that our average age is about 62 years old. Now, this is something that I think is really noteworthy because it has dramatically dropped due to the fact that we have active offerings. So, not only can you do an active tour where you move a bit quicker, but you can also take one of our 24 bicycles that we have on board, and you can either do a guided biking tour, which are also included, or you can just take the bikes off on your own and explore. That is definitely one of my favorite things to do. The other option is being able to hike. Can you imagine being able to hike to the top of the Passau Castle, to the top of the Buddha Castle, and being able to see the amazing views from such an aerial point of view? I mean, it is truly, truly one of a kind. And again, with AmaWaterways, any tour that you see listed on our website or in our brochure is completely included in the price that your clients pay. Now, what's really special about these shore excursions is that with AmaWaterways, our goal is to find the most exclusive experiences out there. So because, as I mentioned, we have those international owners who have come together to build this company, they have truly forged some strong relationships throughout the year with their home countries and their surrounding countries. And what that does is it really helps to give us some special access to destinations as well as some exclusive experiences that really allow your clients to immerse themselves into that authentic local culture. So one of my favorites is to mention is this picture. I had to throw this picture in Landstein, Germany. And so in Landhack Castle, you actually have a wine tasting, a beer tasting. You get this lecture. You get to meet some of the hosts that give the private access to the castle. I mean, it is truly an experience like no other. And that is what we try to do anywhere that we can so that you can truly sell AmaWaterways as a unique product with exclusive experiences that they cannot get anywhere else. Now, we talked about having that younger age demographic on board AmaWaterways ships and starting to see some of those honeymooners come on board or some of those multi-generational families with teens. And one of another supporting reason as to why this is happening is because of our wellness program. So AmaWaterways has decided, I would probably say it was about 3 to 4 years ago, that we decided we wanted to have a new spin and have a wellness focus on board our ships. It was one of the best decisions that we've ever made because, as you know, wellness is probably one of the most number one priorities right now, along with health and safety. And so with that, we have put together this wellness program on board every single one of our European river cruise ships. It's a complimentary program where we have a dedicated wellness instructor on board the ship, providing fitness classes like this one that you see here on the sun deck. Can you imagine waking up in the morning on the Danube River with the beautiful scenery surrounding you, maybe with the Parliament right there in your peripheral, and you're doing some yoga and stretching and just waiting for the day to unfold in front of you? That is the beauty of the wellness program. So we offer these fitness classes throughout the day. You can take them at your leisure, or if you're not into that, that is totally okay as well. Now, outside of having those fitness classes, there are also fitness lectures that we offer and a lot of different activities of which you'll be able to take advantage of. But it doesn't just stop there. We talked about the hiking. We talked about the biking. But then we also mentioned with that culinary experience, making sure that there's a healthy but yet tasty and elevated culinary experience. And then also throughout the ship, you'll find gemstone waters, detox waters, healthy smoothies, a juice presser. So different ways to really make sure that you can focus on that wellness if that's something that you'd like to do while you're on vacation. Also, each one of our river cruise ships has a fitness room. So you can also keep up with your fitness routine if that is something that you'd like to do. Now, as I close up here, I wanted to share something that I know is probably one of the most important things in our current environment, and that is our health and safety protocols. Now, these health and safety protocols are new protocols that have come about, obviously due to the current environment. And one of the most exciting things that I'm so happy to be able to share with you is that while most ocean cruise ships have not been able to sail, same for river cruise ships, AmaWaterways is the first US based river cruise company who started sailing during the pandemic. So, our first sailing was actually July 5th on board the Ama Christina down the Rhine River, and it was for local Germans. So, one of our partners actually chartered our ships. All of our crew and staff are on board, and they provided some amazing river cruise experiences for some local Germans there down on the Rhine River. So what this does is it really helped us to put our protocols into practice. And our crew, they're fully trained, our ships are now fully ready, and now we've had the practice to say, we've done it. We know what it takes to keep you healthy and safe on board. So please come and join us. So we encourage you to share this message with your clients. For the full list of all of the travel updates, the health and safety protocols, you can go to amawaterways.com/travel updates. You'll see all of these different infographics here explained as to what details were taken. But what I wanted to also do is share some of the images that we took from that very first sailing that we had there in Europe. And so as you can see, there's face coverings that are required in some of those transitionary areas. You've got your hand sanitizer, you've got some plexiglass that's been set up. This here in the lounge, again, a depiction of when you can actually remove that face covering, that plexiglass that adds that additional level of safety for our guests on board. On the left here are those smiling faces are actually the partners who chartered the ship. So they were elated to be a part of this marketing content grab that we were able to do. And we're just so happy to be a part of the first of this kind. And so just really excited to be able to share these pictures. And this one's my favorite. We talk about Ama means love. I think you can tell from the employees, we love what we do. It's just so fun to share our love for the waterways with the world. And as you can see here, we have some of our lead staff. You got the cruise manager, you got your captain, the maitre d', and it's really just been fantastic. And so with that, lastly, I just wanted to share what our promotions are right now, because we all want to know, well, how do I get someone on one of these river cruises and how can I get them the very best deal possible? So here it is. Right now, AmaWaterways is providing free round trip airfare to and from Europe for 2021 departures. So this is good through the end of September. So it's September the 30th. Free round trip economy airfare. If your clients are looking for business class, then we can have them upgrade to business class for an additional $2,999. If your clients happen to be flying from a non-major gateway, one of the smaller like municipal local airports, then we have just a small additional additive, like an additional $199 or $299 based on where that location is. So definitely a fantastic offer. You can find this offer on our website, amawaterways.com. In the top corner, you'll see something called special offers. Click on that, and the very first one you'll see there is that fly free to Europe in 2021. Whew. Well, Cindy, I know that was a lot of information.
That was great, though. That was amazing. Um, I really appreciate you sharing. And while you were talking, there was a couple of questions that came up. Amanda, who's inside of our inner circle, she asked, she specializes in solo travel.
Okay.
So her question is do you offer solo staterooms?
That's a great question. Thank you so much for your question. Is this Amanda Barnes that asked the question here? Hi, Amanda. Thank you
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much for tuning in live with us today. So we do actually offer just a couple of solo staterooms. So the ones that we do, it's actually on what we call our original build, our Fantastic Five ships. So these are French balcony ships. They are a little bit more narrow, and we typically reserve them for the more narrow or rivers that are a little bit more difficult to navigate. And so those river cruise ships, again, we call them our original build, On those, there are a couple of staterooms that are made solely for solo travelers. They are 140 square feet and they have French windows or French balconies. So ceiling windows that you can open up and look up outside. So those, no single supplement whatsoever. But then our on
Did you say no
for
single
those
supplement?
particular
Is that what I
staterooms,
just
and
heard you
it's only
say?
maybe, two on each of those ships, but for those, no single supplement at all. So
Mm-hmm.
you can actually take advantage of, for instance, the free
That's
offer,
awesome.
the free air offer, right? So you pay the normal rate, you pay the
Mm-hmm.
free air offer. Now, on the other end, we always have these ongoing solo traveler policies. And so with AMA, we really like to welcome those solo travelers on board. So what we do is we have a standard single supplement of just 50%. So that's something that is always going to be there. So it's helpful when typically the single supplement is another 100%. So say you're looking at,
Yeah,
any type of stateroom, whether it be a French balcony, a double balcony, you're going to have this stateroom that is, if you're looking at a balcony, it's at minimum 170 square feet for a French balcony, 235 square feet for that double balcony that we saw a picture of earlier. That stateroom for a solo traveler, they would just pay an additional 50%, and
that's
we
great.
take care of them. Now, that's just the pricing side of things. Now, on the other side of things, we have a welcome reception for solo guests when they get on
Oh,
board. So we can make sure that everyone feels comfortable and we can make sure that they feel like they're a part of the family. We
yeah,
also will, depending on time permitting, we'll send an invitation, a personal invitation to the solo traveler to dine with a senior crew member at some point throughout the cruise. So it'll either be the captain, the cruise manager, the maitre d', or something of the sort.
awesome.
And then in the dining room, we have started to do tables of 5 and tables of 7. And it's a really small detail, but as a solo traveler, when you see 2 seats open, you almost feel like you're taking a seat away from a couple, right? And
Yeah,
so by having that odd number, it just creates this additional level of, comfortability. So
yeah.
yes, we love to welcome your solo travelers on board. 50% single supplement. From time to time, we may run promotions where we'll slash that and make it just a 25% single supplement. So
Awesome.
keep an eye out for those. But yes, that is our solo traveler policy.
Awesome. So Amanda also asked, let me get her other question, which I thought was great as well, is I'm also interested in agent rates and familiarization rates.
Absolutely. And I can tell you that this is probably going to be the biggest, I think the best way to recover from this, right, is that these guests, these clients, they look to advisors as experts. They look to advisors as their professionals, their consultants. And so the moment that an advisor can go on a river cruise or an ocean cruise or even a land component on their own, and say, hey, here, I'm doing it, it's safe for me, you become that advocate, right? And so I think this is going to be really huge, especially to help fill up some of this space as we go forward. But yes, AMA has a fantastic FAM program. So right now, obviously, because we're not sailing, we aren't taking any FAMs, but we are taking a FAM wait list. So if you're interested in doing a FAM, we would ask that you reach out to your local business development, your local business development manager. Now, if you don't know who that is, which you may not if you haven't worked with AMA yet, I direct you to go to AmaWaterways.com, log into the travel agent portal, and then you'll find your sales team there. Cindy, I'll also send you a follow up with just like the promotions, the sales team flyer, and a couple of things that way you can just have it handy in case anyone wants to have that information from you. But yeah, you can let your BDM know you're interested. They'll put you on a list so that the moment that we start sailing again, and fingers crossed, we are really hoping that we can start sailing this year, even for the Christmas markets. And if that's the case, we probably won't be full, and it will be a perfect and fantastic opportunity to be able to welcome our advisors on board so they can be the first to set the example. And once 2021 happens, we can be on a roll. So our standard FAM program, the way that it works is that if there is a river cruise within 60 days of a departure date that you're interested in traveling on in Europe or Asia, then you can go ahead and apply for it. So the application is on our website through the Travel Advisor portal. The only thing that you'll want to really do before you take that and fill out that application is to take the AMA Academy course. So
Okay.
the AMA Academy is our kind of like our online training. And if
Hmm.
you take that course, then it unlocks the special rates for you. So once you take that course, you as an advisor only pays $690 for your
What?
to go and
Let's do that again. $690 after you take AMA University or Academy. That's pretty amazing.
690 for the travel advisor, 890 for the non-travel advisor. And we're talking about cruises that can normally go from anywhere between, 3,500 to 5,000 plus dollars per person. So our travel agents really AMA is a little bit different than some of the companies out there, but our travel agents are our heart and soul. It's our heartbeat. 95% of our business is retail. It comes directly through our travel advisors. So our fan program is really, our level of advertisement, right? We get you to go. Now you become that advocate. Now you can speak to the differences between AMA and Viking or, some of these other companies. So yes, we can't wait to welcome you on board. Remember our standard fan policy, which I'm sure will start to kick in for next year, anything within 60 days. As long as you've taken the AMA Academy, you can let us know what your top three choices are, and your entry level cabin comes in at $690 for you as the travel advisor, $890 for your non-travel advisor companion. You don't need to have sold AMA before. We want to get you on because we know the moment we get you on, you will be sold, and then you'll start to sell.
That's good. That's amazing. So I one of the other questions, I think you've already answered this, which is as a new travel agent, do I need to register for your site? And you did mention your website. So just tell us one more time what the site is.
Absolutely. So we would love for you to register. That way we can keep you up to date with the promotions and incentives that we have going. So what you do is just go to AmaWaterways.com. In the top right hand corner, you'll see somewhere where you can log in. So what you'll need to do is click that. It will ask you if you've been registered with AMA yet. If your agency is already registered with AMA, then all you need to do is provide us with your name and your email address, and we'll build you under that agency. If your agency is not built in the system, then we would need a W-9 and the agency registration form so we can go ahead and have that built in the system based on whatever that CLIA or that IATA or ARC number might be. Once you've done that, you're all situated and you can stay in contact with us. Again, it's a great way to find out about our incentives and promotions. You all already know about the air offer that I mentioned earlier, but then we also have our travel advisor incentive. So it's an ongoing incentive. And this 2021 incentive says that if you book 5 bookings to travel in AMA, then you get a free cruise for you to travel yourself, for you and a traveling companion.
Love
Now,
it.
the best part about this is you have all the way until the end of 2021 to make 5 bookings to travel in 2021. So that is over a year and a half, right? Well, we started it back in June. So it was about over a year and a half as an opportunity, to really earn that free cruise. And then you can go, at any time at that point.
That's awesome. So there's a couple of questions I have, which I don't see any questions around this is groups. So what do you guys do as it relates to group travel?
Yes, absolutely. And, Cindy, I can tell you that I had probably like 20 more slides.
You need to do an Alma Waters part 2 then.
I overstretched it because the rest of the slides were all about kind of getting into the nitty gritty of selling it, right? Mm-hmm. So, the 5 cabins equals a group that you can earn a TC after every 9 paying passengers. Some of the different programs, how to really appeal to any new clientele, how to present yourself, how to go and, use some social media. So maybe we can set up a follow-up one where we can kind of dive into that and make it like a 2-part series.
I think that would be great. How many of you guys who are on the line would love to have Jazzmine come back for part 2 so she could talk about how we can effectively sell AmaWaterways? I know that I would love to have you because you just said 5 people equal a group. 5 and I just with my family can do that. So
there you go.
That would be amazing. That would be thebomb.com. So yes, I'll talk offline with you and we'll figure out a way to get you back on so that you can talk about the selling of it. And I think my group would love that. We're getting some yeses, so that would be great.
Right. And so I will give you just a quick recap of the groups, because groups we all know is the sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
And we always tell everyone, like, booking groups with Ama is easy. We want to make it as easy as possible. So we hear sometimes about those nightmares of booking groups. We hear them and we learn from them, and we want to make sure that we never provide that same experience. So I can tell you, it's probably, one of the more preferable ways to do groups is with Ama, because we really try to make sure that it's a very seamless process. But 5 bookings create one group. So 5 bookings is 10. 5 bookings is 10 passengers, right? So for every 9 paying passenger, that 10th passenger, you can earn a berth by having that 10th passenger, right? Mm-hmm. The SPC. And so with Ama, when you're looking at booking a group, all you need to do is call into our reservations department and you'll speak to our group coordinator, our group department. You let them know what you're interested in. They go over the pricing and a quote with you. You take that quote with you and you decide what you want to do with it. Either you already have some people in mind, or maybe you and your travel advisor friends are going to work together and you're all going to try to sell into one date. Mm-hmm. There's different ways of, getting creative with that. But once you have that and you say, hey, I really want to do this, then we do require a $25 per person deposit. Okay, so it's fully refundable. It's the biggest thing to remember. It's a fully refundable deposit. So $25 per person locks that in for us. Now, it doesn't hold any space. Now, I know this is probably something that seems really odd, especially if you book ocean cruising. You're putting down a deposit. What do you mean there's no space being held? But it's a little bit different with river. When you only have about 160 passengers on board, we really can't hold space, because you can hold space all year and then release it. And due to the higher price point, it may be that much more difficult for us to actually resell it. So we always do it on a first come, first serve basis. But what you do by putting down that deposit is you allow us to have a better idea of how many groups we will allow to even book into this date. And so if we know that, we've got already 20 deposits on a departure and someone else wants to book a group on that date, we'll let them know there's no more group space, because we want to give you an opportunity to sell into it, especially also directly competing with any FIT bookings as well, right? So the biggest thing to remember, though, we talked about that deposit. It's $25 per person to lock that in and get that contract signed. The moment that you have one person ready to deposit, and with Ama, our regular deposit is $200 per person. I'm sorry, I apologize. It's $400 per person. $200 per person is non-refundable right away. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So once you have someone that says, hey, I want one of those staterooms, from your group, you call in with that $400 per person deposit. Once we have that deposit, we can go ahead and refund you back all of the deposits that you put on the remainder of those staterooms, right? So if you put down that $25 per person, that all can go right back to you, because now we've got a deposit in that group. Now, if you come to us and you want a quote and you actually already have someone ready to deposit, we no longer need your own deposit. We no longer need your $25 per person deposit. You've already got someone locked in. We'll go ahead and take that deposit. We'll get that contract signed, and we can start working on, number 1, creating a group flyer for you. So we handle that for you, that you can promote it. Number 2, we assign you with a group coordinator. That group coordinator is your best friend. They will call you when they know a promotion's about to end. They will find out if, okay, you have this number of people. If you get one more, you're earning your TC. They keep you on top of things. I have some friends over in the groups department that I've been working with for years. I can tell you will not be disappointed, and they are what makes booking groups with Ama so easy. So that is it kind of in a nutshell about groups.
So that's great. And I really appreciate that, Summer. So we're definitely going to have you come back. But I do want to touch on this one topic, because the reason I found you was because you had, I don't remember exactly where you were, but you had announced the fact that your diversity recommendations had been taken into your company. And somebody who did just comment about that earlier, about the fact that they are concerned about diversity when selling river. And I think as minorities, that may be a lot of us, right? So I'm an African-American woman, you're an African-American woman. So in this post, you had showed the imagery that your company had adopted, which I was like, okay, can you come and speak to my group? Because I think that would be great because the majority of the people in our group are women of color. So talk to us a little bit more about what your company is doing and how they are really, you did mention it a little bit, but I want to touch on it because I think it's so important during this time that companies are making an effort to be inclusive. So I'm glad that your company listened to you.
Absolutely. And thank you, Cindy, because I think that that is probably one of the things that's really like just so close to my heart, right? Like we love travel and I've been working in travel. It's been about seven or so years now, not too long, but long enough to really fall in love with it,
Yeah.
and to know that there was and is and has been, more a lack of representation within the industry is something that can really be concerning, when you have such a passion, for what you do. So one of the things that I can say that I truly, truly, absolutely love about AmaWaterways is that over the years in working with them, I have kind of expressed my concerns with the lack of representation within our product. And while I've actually personally even worked with groups of African American travelers that have traveled on board with us, you weren't able to find any of that in any of our marketing materials. And so this past year, we were blessed with a new CMO. Her name is Janet Bava. And Janet, I had a conversation with Janet and she immediately agreed and said, let's do something about this. And so actually, this was 2 years ago. And so last year, she said, hey, Jazz, I know this is something that's been close to your heart. Would you like, or would you be comfortable sending possibly your mother on a river cruise to experience our brand new ship, the Ama Magna, that we talked about, that beautiful magnified ship on the Ama Magna as one of the very first guests, so that we can capture some authentic content. And I just thought that it was so touching for me,
Yeah.
them to listen.
It made me cry.
And not even just listening, but making sure that I was a part of it
Yeah.
also. Right? And so my mother ended up going, and I ended up having my grandmother, my father's mother, travel with my mother.
Mhm.
And they were able to go overseas and travel together and experience the Magna before I even had a chance to get on the Ama Magna.
I'm
And
sure
then,
you had to twist their arms, right?
oh, of course, I had to
Yeah,
beg.
I know you did.
And yeah, and so they went, and there was some videos captured and some footage captured, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but there was a couple of pictures in the presentation, so those are actually pictures from that trip.
Yep.
So it was my mother and my grandmother, and then there was also a gentleman by the name of Alfonso Cartledge, him and his wife, and he actually has his own one of the oldest Black-owned travel agencies, actually, and it's called Our Gang Travel. And
That's
so he
awesome.
was on board with us too. And so you see him in a lot of the images. He's the one with the glass, and you can basically literally see him in the picture saying "thank you." It's what the picture screams. But it's just been amazing to see that this is something that they cared about. So I'm kind of a little out of order, but after my mother and grandmother came back, there was so much happening. Things were happening. We really couldn't do too much with the content. We're working with NBC and all these things, but then we had an opportunity where we put out a past passenger magazine, and we put it out every season, every quarter. And in this magazine, it's to all of our past passengers, and it's to really keep them up to date on just new things happening within the company, new topics, new destinations, new ships, really a soft sell, more of an engagement factor and a touch point. And I opened up the winter brochure, the Winter Beyond the Riverbanks magazine, and there, I'm wondering if I have one close by. I think I do. And there on page 8
Is your mom and your That's awesome. That's awesome.
is my mom and my grandmother.
That's awesome.
I don't know how well you guys can see
Yeah,
this.
we
It's
can see it.
probably
It's
not
very clear.
probably not the best way to show it, but it is the Beyond the Riverbanks magazine. And I can say that that was the very first time that I'd ever, and I kind of made a play on words on Facebook. It was the first time I'd ever seen someone who looked like me.
That's right.
Literally and physically, right? Because
That's right. That's right.
Americans, literally, because those are my genes. It's what I'm made of. So, so that was a really big step. However, I think things kind of started to fall through the cracks, right? Life starts to happen. It's really easy to get back into your normal routine. However, Janet also still had her mind on this, and she actually had plans, and she was going to work with Sandra McLemore. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but she's a great person to get familiar with for travel advisors out there because she's all about marketing yourself, and she really helps with marketing yourself digitally through social media. And so Janet was actually working with Sandra to bring her and some of her friends and colleagues on board to do even more of a photo shoot and be able to capture more images. And that cruise was actually supposed to happen this July. I know. I know. So unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. But simultaneously, as this thing was supposed to be happening, the world happened, right? Life happened. And George Floyd happened and Black Lives Matter happened. And there was this sense of needing to do something. There was a sense of needing to do something. And with AMA, we've always been an inclusive brand as to welcoming everyone on board, but maybe not so 100% intentional in making sure that it was represented in that marketing. But when this happened, it made it very clear to say, hey, we knew this was something that was important and we were working on it, but it really needs to become back in the front. It needs to be from the back. It needs to come to the front burner, right?
Right.
And so the moment things happen, I spoke with Janet, and she has some great things to say to me, and just really some support. And we were thinking about making a statement, but instead of making a statement, and this was really because so many people are making statements. And as we can all see, a lot of those statements were just statements.
Exactly.
And they were statements because they needed to happen at the time in order for people not to feel singled out, etc. Well, here it is. AMA didn't make any statement, but immediately, wherever they could, they started to throw these pictures into our collateral. Now, it's the same pictures. I'm not going to lie. You're going to start to see some of the same pictures because it's the lack of content. But, I think back on it and I think about some of these other same pictures that I see and that I've seen for the last 7 years of AMA that we've been recycling and reusing. I'm totally okay with this being the same picture because it's the intent behind it, right? It's the intent.
Absolutely.
And so every single piece I will say, and I'm getting chills because I try to be calm about it and not be too excited, but every single piece I open up now, that picture's in it. And so the fact that they're making an effort to throw that picture in, I know that the moment that we do have additional content, they'll start to continuously work that in. Alonzo Cartledge, who also was filmed that day. We actually ended up having him come on for one of our webinar Wednesdays. Mm-hmm. We hold it every single Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, where we have owners, where we have our owners, we have travel advisor owners, we have people who really do great business with us. So we had him featured actually, I would want to say maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I can share that link with you also. But he came on and he talked about how he's been able to remain resilient during these times and how he's been able to really position this product and how he's been so successful with selling AmaWaterways. So he's also another great resource as to someone who is African-American, who is a Black person in travel, who's trying to say, okay, but how do I overcome some of these objections, knowing that there is, a little bit of that lack of representation. So it's just amazing to see what AMA's been doing. And I'm always a resource as well. I've been trying to collect some of this collateral wherever I can so that we can share it out. So I'll be sure to share what I can with you, Sunday, as we continue along. But it's just amazing to see AMA making a stand and saying that they do want to make sure that everyone feels like they want to have them on and welcome them on board our river cruise ships.
Right. That's absolutely. And it's so important because I've had Uniworld on and there's no content. And that is a concern. Like I said, most of the agents that I work with in terms of training and coaching, they are women. I do have a few men, but most of them are women of color. And so, being able to experience what you just described in your ships and what is available, people of color want to do that as well. And so they want to feel comfortable. So the fact that you've got content and they're making an effort, definitely positions you to be a choice supplier for me personally, because that's an important thing for me. I want my guests to be comfortable. I want my students to feel comfortable with selling it. So the fact that your company has acknowledged it and that you are there helping to push forward makes it it's such an exciting opportunity, I think, for me, absolutely. So we will be looking personally to be booking with AmaWaterways next year. Absolutely.
Thanks, Sandy. And it really is, it all works together, right? Because the moment you have that representation, then a consumer looks at that and says, hey, I could be on there. And
That's
then
right. I see
they
myself on.
yeah, and they're going to go to their travel advisor, who also is probably of the same ethnicity of them. And
Yep.
so now you have that all working together by just having that level of representation. And the same thing goes for an advisor who says, hey, I've loved this product, but it's been difficult for me to present it to my clients. Well, now here you have this one or two pictures, even if it's that, in a statement
Better
saying,
than zero, right?
the moment you see that and you're able to say, well, okay, now I actually know that I can feel comfortable positioning this to my client. I can feel comfortable saying like, hey, Alma really hasn't had that much, representation in the past, but they're making an effort. Look at some of these images. They've always been welcoming on board. It's just that they haven't really been, as intensive in the marketing, because it's almost one of those autopilot things, and I can understand it. But the fact that they're willing to make a change and they're doing it by that one gesture of having that representation, it helps pull from both sides, on the advisor and the consumer side alike. And I really think that's going to help to really make us a more inclusive brand going forward.
Absolutely. It has been super great to have you here. I am going to work with you, between myself and Rachel. We'll work with you to get you back on so that you can do part two. And I will most likely keep this for the Inner Circle, which is my private Facebook group for students who are learning about launching, marketing, and operating their travel business. So to teach us how to sell you effectively. So not you, but AmaWaterways. So I'll coordinate that with you, and it's been great. Before we go, I'm just going to give you guys the last chance. Are there any other questions that you want to do? All right, somebody asked, first part, what's the commission structure? Great question.
Oh, yes. That was one of those other slides I have for you guys. I know there was so much. And then I started talking about the product. I was like, there's no way I can get through this in the next however many minutes we had. Yeah. But our commission structure is really attractive, I would say. It's really attractive. Our base commission is 15% on our cruises. And again, we're talking about, cruises that can be, upwards of $3,500 or more. So there's a nice commission that comes there. We'll do 12% commission on any land components. So we always do pre and post land. So you'll go into Zurich and Lucerne, 4 nights before your cruise from Basel to Amsterdam. 12% commission on that land. 10% commission on any extra nights you want to add on top of that package that we provide on the land. So if you want to spend 3 nights in Zurich instead of 2, we'll give you 10% commission on that. 5% commission on insurance, 5% commission on airfare. So the only NFCs, we know you guys use NFCs, non-commissionable items. The only ones that really are existing with AMA are your transfers, and those are like $30 per person, so it's okay on those. And then also, I just went blank. Your port charges. Which makes sense. But everything else, everything you book with AMA as far as an entity, we will take care of you. That's really one of the best factors about our air, because it's not just a percentage on the true airfare. It's a true percentage on the total gross. And as we know, there's usually fuel charge, taxes, surcharges, and all of that. So you're getting 5% on that be business class. Yeah, on the total airfare cost.
That's awesome. So I think this is sort of in lines with the commission is, do you offer loyalty points?
Hi, April. Thanks for your question. Loyalty points. Well, we do have a loyalty program for the guest, the clients who travel on board with us. So it's typically, $100 per person after your after your first cruise, savings plus an upgrade after your next cruise. So there's different tiers to it. We do have it featured on our website. And so it's actually called the AmaWaterways Loyalty Program. We're trying to get creative with the name, but right now it's just the AmaWaterways Loyalty Program. We don't put too much emphasis on the program, but it's because we really try to kind of steer towards these special sailings. So we actually have started to do this really in the beginning of the year and the end of the year, like a spring and a fall, where we
Mhm.
have particular departures where past guests get special offers outside of normal guests. So these
Gotcha.
are departures that are specifically catered to those past guests, where they have special savings and delights and surprises on board and things like that. And so those are starting to become a lot more popular. So those are kind of what we steer those loyal past guests to.
That sounds just yummy. Like I love all of that. So, all right, we are a little bit over our time, ladies and ladies. So again, Jazzmine, it was great to have you on. I look forward to having you back. And if there's any additional question that I'm not able to answer, I'll pass that your way. And I really appreciate you taking the time to speak to my community and talk to us about AmaWaterways. And I'm in there like swimwear, like that's my corny little thing. Somebody told me years ago, and it stuck with me. But this is just I cannot wait to get on board. I am super excited about this, and it sounds like I'm looking at the comments. There's a lot of other agents who are as well. So thanks again.
This is fantastic. And Cindy, thank you so much for the opportunity. My goal is to connect with as many people as I can, especially with our new diversity and inclusion initiative. So, any ways that I can help to support, please let me know. But of course, you do still have your local BDMs that you'll be able to work with, and they'll be able to, be there for you real time. But I'm always a resource, and we definitely want to continue to push the agenda and just really make the travel industry more inclusive for everybody involved.
That's awesome. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good night.